In fact, Mark, I am convinced this whole health care thing is there to make sure abortion is in America. I'm convinced of it.
Johnny, didn't we talk about that last year on LifeTalk? We were talking about how the big coming battle would be abortion in health care. We talked about this way over a year ago.
Because of the price.
And yeah, the cost, and they're trying to get the cost of abortions up. But let me tell you something that I'm afraid of, a scam that's being run right now. Right now you have a group of people out there saying, oh, we've got to stop putting abortion in health care. Even some of them are Democrats, and the Obama administration is saying, don't worry, we're not going to be paying for abortion. This is not an abortion bill. This is a health care bill. Let me tell you what I think is going on behind the scenes. And we know this is how Washington, D.C. works. I think behind the scenes, as we're sitting at this table, lawyers for the Obama administration and for the United States Justice Department are sitting down with the pro-aborts and telling them, look, we've got to put out, we'll never get this health care bill passed if it pays for abortion. So we've got to write language into it that excludes abortion. That's the only way we can get it passed. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back out at the 12th hour or 11th hour and say, okay, we'll agree to that just so we can get it passed. Right. But here's what we're doing. We're going to write this language in such a way that the federal courts will throw it out. Mm-hmm. So don't worry about it. Right. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised that lawyers for the Obama administration and for the Justice Department are sitting down with lawyers from Planned Parenthood and from the ACLU and from all these other radical pro-abortion groups, and they're working out a deal right now where they're telling their men and saying, you go out and tell your members, put up a little bit of fight, but don't call us on this right now, because the second this thing gets passed, you guys go out and file an injunction. We'll write it in such a way that the federal courts will have to throw it out. And it won't throw out the whole health care bill. We'll get it passed that way.
It won't even be something that goes through the courts. It'll just be a bureaucratic check of a box.
Yeah, something.
For example, back in California when they passed the seatbelt law, they could never have passed this with the provision that you could pull somebody over for not wearing a seatbelt. It was just something that happened in the course of another traffic violation. But lo and behold, 3 or 4 years later, they automatically said, well, we can now pull you over for not wearing a seatbelt if a police officer spots you not wearing a seatbelt. It's the same thing that's going to be happening with this health care bill. If abortion is removed, it'll just be a few months or a couple of years before they start providing abortions.
It won't be a couple of years.
Oh, no.
But
it'll be a matter of weeks.
I have a lawyer friend named Patty who said the exact same thing you said, Mark. She said, this thing passes, guarantee you. It'll be in court, and they'll say, oh, you got to provide for that woman's right.
It's a legal procedure.
Yep.
And it's discriminatory against women because only women have abortions. And I'm telling you, it's what we said last month, and we've been saying every month, and I'm sure that our guests later on in the show are going to be talking about some of the things that are going on behind the scenes would agree. There's only one way we won't be paying for abortion through national health care, and that is if we don't have national health care. Yeah. This thing has got to be stopped. No negotiation, no deal making, none of that nonsense. It has to be stopped in its tracks.
And I think it's so crucial. A lot of people think pro-lifers, we're just a one-issue group. But we're really not. There's some whole lot of things that we agree with on. If it's a moral issue, we're in on a lot of things. Right. And I think that this is where pro-lifers need to really be just vigilant. This is one time I would tell everybody, listen to what Mark Crutcher is saying, everybody.
Because this is the first time?
Because I'm serious. People might think, well, look, they got the Stupak amendment in there, and so we got a pro-life amendment in there. That thing is going to be taken out.
Absolutely.
That thing is going to be taken out. Right. And they will make it look like, oh, my goodness, if you get one little iota of a pro-life thing, this doesn't mean we back off and say, okay, it's okay to pass it now.
Right.
There's still other issues in this thing that are so crucial, and the people who are against us are the same people who will stand with. There are people that don't want ration health care. Right. There are people that don't want to make sure the government is taking over and taxing them. There's people who don't want to go to jail because they're not going to get insurance.
Right.
And this is one time nothing in this thing should be allowed to pass.
This thing's got to go down. But anyway, we're going to be talking about it some more later on. But the bottom line is, it cannot pass. Right. It cannot pass. We can argue about all these little nuances and so forth. It cannot pass. It cannot be allowed to pass. A couple of things that I found pretty interesting here this month. Planned Parenthood, one of their spokespersons, Vanessa Cullins, MD, she's Vice President for Medical Affairs. And she's coming out here saying that the reason we need to talk to our kids about sex and about preventing STDs, she's saying, listen to this, In terms of sexually transmitted diseases, expect HPV once you become sexually intimate. All of us are going to get it.
Expect it?
Expect it.
Wow.
Everybody who is sexually active gets HPV.
And what's her proof of that? What's her reasoning?
They don't have to have reasoning. These are Planned Parenthood people.
Yeah, that's right. I lost my mind.
We're all going to get AIDS one day or another.
But here's my point. I often say and try to tell people that these are not just people with whom we disagree. These are people who have a fundamentally flawed view of the world. If that doesn't prove it, to say that everybody who gets sexually active is going to get a sexually transmitted disease is who are they hanging out with?
Not only is it flawed fundamentally, it's based upon a lie.
Yeah.
So if if the foundation is cracked, or the Bible says if you built your foundation on sand, it's worthless. And that's Planned Parenthood. If they're built on a lie, then you can't believe anything else that they say.
After that. And let me tell you.
Maybe they're making money from that shot.
Oh, they're definitely.
Well, they're making fortunes from it. That's where all the money is. It's in treatment for STDs and in birth control pills. That's where all the money for Planned Parenthood is. It's not in abortion. We've talked about this many times before. But the money is in treatment for STDs and birth control pills.
And social engineering. They just want you to comply with what they want you to do.
But if you want to see the mentality behind Planned Parenthood, and we've talked about this before, go to our website, prolifeamerica.com, and click down there on the archives and watch that taped interview that Mike Wallace did back in the 1950s with Margaret Sanger.
Oh, yeah.
That is eye-opening. I mean, if you say, this is the woman that there is, she's the mother of all this. Yeah. She's the one that they give awards for based on her name. They say she's their heroine. Listen to what this woman is saying on this interview. It is amazing. And most people don't even know there was ever a taped interview with her. Right. And we came across that. So
it's really an amazing find. I encourage everybody to do that.
It's really interesting to watch.
For Planned Parenthood logic, though, I like to quote Mike Tyson. Ludicrous.
Yeah, all right. A good quote there. I want to talk about something else. We're getting low on time here, but something people need to be watching out for. This is happening right now in Baltimore, but it's happening around the country as well. There is a concerted effort to shut down the crisis pregnancy centers in this country.
They're taking abortions.
Right, that's right. They take money out of the abortion industry's pocket.
And they outnumber the abortion clinics 4-to-1 in America, at least 4-to-1.
Well, and Troy, as you know, you travel a lot more than I do. In some parts of the country, vast parts of the country, the only pro-life presence there is the CPC.
Yes.
They don't have a local pro-life group or whatever.
Sidewalk counselors or a protest group or anything.
All they have is a CPC.
Right.
And I think that the abortion lobby knows if we can take out the CPCs, then we can silence the pro-life message in vast parts of the United States, which is a fact. But they're going after them now, saying things like they can't do sonograms and
bogus health clinics.
Bogus health clinics and passing. Now this thing in Baltimore, they're going to have to put up a sign saying that they don't do abortions.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable. It's like you go to a car dealership and they say, here, you have to read our sign before we can sell you a car. It says, we don't do dog grooming.
This is so hilarious. The people that call themselves pro-choice, okay, say, this place does not offer you a choice. It's ridiculous. The abortion clinic should have the sign, we only kill your baby. Right. That's it. Right. You know, if you really want to have a choice, go down to the crisis pregnancy center. Right. So the very people, I mean, it's hypocrisy at its nth degree.
Right. But they don't care about it being hypocritical.
They just want to shut them down so all those girls go to their doors.
Right, exactly. And one thing I'm going to suggest to these people in Baltimore, I'm going to talk to some of the CPC directors. If this thing passes, this is a city ordinance, if it passes, I suggest that they put up a sign on the front door that just lists all the things they don't do and just put abortion as one of those things.
There you go. But see,
we don't do dog grooming, we don't sell cars, we don't do this, we won't cut your grass.
You're thinking smart, you're aggressive, and you stood against tyranny and oppression for years. The problem is, and we've seen this across the country, a lot of these crisis pregnancy centers are staffed by people who have just never really been in the pro-life movement very long. They don't have a big legal support team. They've never been sued before. And so the instant these things come up, they capitulate instantly.
And we saw this
in San Diego. At the very threat of a lawsuit from Planned Parenthood, they put on all their letterhead, and I won't mention the name of the person that did this. We don't do abortions. We only counsel against abortion. We're a Christian organization. And they said, we won't show you any graphic images.
Oh. Right.
Just the threat of a lawsuit. I say bring the lawsuits on, but
Right, exactly.
These people
keep
don't.
telling the truth and keep telling what's going on.
The people need to stand up for their freedom of expression and freedom of speech, free speech. And when somebody's going to try to shut you down and say, you can't say this and this is what you got to say, I say sue them.
Well, first, what these guys need to understand, too, at these crisis pregnancy centers, is that free speech doesn't mean just that the government can't tell you what not to say. It also means the government can't tell you what to say.
Exactly.
That's also a violation of free speech. And to sit here and say that you've got to put up a sign on the front of this business that says we don't do abortions, I mean, it's unbelievable. And these people who are pushing this have no morals. They have no conscience. And basically it's anti-American. And I think they look at things.
I tell you about the CPCs in Baltimore. They need to be aggressive. I'm serious. They need to just turn around and sue the pants off the people and they need to find the person whoever introduced that ordinance. Yeah. Zero in on that particular person.
Well, they know the woman that's on the city council that introduced it.
That's the woman that need to be sued.
Right.
I'm serious.
Right. They need to camp out at her office and make this woman's life hell on earth until they pull this out. Because this, if you allow this to happen in Baltimore, what's going to happen is other CPCs around the country are going to say, oh, they're going to come after us. We better put up a sign right now.
Right.
Or close down.
Or close down or do something. We don't want to get sued. And you need to quit being worried about being sued. You know, we've been sued one time since Life Dynamics has been open. Now, before I opened it and I told people what kind of organization we were going to be, I had pro-life leaders tell me, you're going to be sued every month. They're going to sue you out of business. Well, and we opened up in 1992. We've been sued one time, and it was the best thing that ever happened to us. Absolutely the best thing that ever happened to us.
This kept me involved in the pro-life movement.
Right.
Planned Parenthood.
Once, but I didn't have enough money, so they decided they didn't want me after all.
Didn't have anything to do.
Most times lawsuits are bluster.
Right, exactly.
Just tell them to go pound sand, and I'll see you in court. And it costs them thousands and thousands of dollars to prosecute these lawsuits. And in the end, they usually just go away.
Fort Worth sued us over us outing him as an abortionist.
Good for you.
It cost him over $45,000, and he had to drop the suit.
Yes.
And it didn't cost us a nickel.
You mean y'all said you just told what the guy did?
Yeah, and he sued us.
That's why I got sued.
And they sent us to, they sent us to arbitration, and it lasted all day. It was probably the most entertaining and enjoyable day I've ever spent. And Ed, our attorney at that time, we just sat there, and it was so funny because the guy knew his suit was basically, so there was nothing to it, but it wound up costing him $45,000 in legal fees. They hired this high-dollar lawyer's office in Dallas with all these SMU law school graduates. And it was so funny, and we loved it. And the guy wound up spending $45,000, agreeing never to do another abortion the rest of his life, and it didn't cost us anything.
Awesome. Bring it on, right?
But the problem is, very often what happens with pro-life people, and especially this is at CPCs, we're not picking on them, but they tend to be non-confrontational, nice.
They're mercy-oriented. They're here to help. They're not to be aggressive. They're not protest groups.
And they get a letter in the